All right, everyone, what's up? This is Justin. It's been a long, long time since we've had a bit of a chat, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be chatting again on the Greatness Unleashed podcast. Today, we are going to talk about, is Hyrox already dead? Not really. That was just a catchy title. All right. And as we know, catchy titles get views. All right. Get listens. What we're actually going to talk about, well, I'm going to give you a fitness professional's view on the whole CrossFit versus High Rocks from someone that's done both or is doing both, someone who coaches in the space, rather than just the social media bullshit that we get fed each and every day. You know, the CrossFitters will say that High Rocks is crap, and they'll show you all the bullshit reps that happen in High Rocks, and then vice versa. And it's just social media warfare because, as we know, controversy is what gets clicks. All right, that's what gets views. That's why I called this "Is High Rocks already dead?" Because I know that it's something that's going to make people click and listen. All right. And therein lies the first issue. The first issue is people need to start to understand that what they see on social media is extremely different to generally what is going on in the real world. Okay. In the four walls of the gym or the training studio or the training or whatever you're doing, generally what you see on social media is very different. The next thing that's very different is there is a massive difference between general everyday training and fitness, okay, and then the sport of said fitness. And so this is where the controversy probably lies more than anything. And this is why I believe High Rocks and CrossFit can coexist and should coexist and should be part of your training program. And then you should also have bodybuilding work in there as well. All right. We need to know how to build lean muscle. We need to know how to build and improve our cardiovascular health. We need to know how to move better as humans. And this is why all these different modalities can all work together. And so, what we're going to talk about today is the differences between the two, why they can all coexist, and where I think you should be spending the majority of your time. Just remember from the start, everything that you see, or almost everything that you see on social media, is designed to get your attention and then get your money. All right. And we want to make sure that you're not falling for that, that you're actually working within your values and working towards your own goals. So let's first of all talk about there is a massive difference between Hyrox and CrossFit. And the difference basically starts here. Hyrox is a race. It is a fitness race. It was created by a German three-time Olympian to be a test or an option for the everyday gym goer to see if they are improving. It gives them something to work towards. And if you know me and what I talk about the need for you to have goals around your fitness. It gets really, really hard to hit the gym every day or 3 or 4 times a week just because you know it's the right thing to do for your body now and into the future. Very few people have got the discipline to be able to do that. For some of us, we do have a little bit of a competitive spirit and we are looking for that test or that option where we can test ourselves. It's not the person next to us. It's not about racing the other 200 people. It's about where am I at and how can I improve? All right. It's giving you a goal. All right. And we all know that we perform better when we have goals to set or we have set goals. And that is in life in general. If you're a real estate agent and your boss says your goal this month is to sell 4 houses, you're going to work to sell those 4 houses. Okay. If you're going into every month with a we'll just see how the month goes attitude, you'll get to the end of the month and you might have sold your 4 houses, you might have sold more, and you might have sold none. because if you don't have a goal, you can't therefore have a plan. I tell my clients all the time to plan their week in advance. Don't leave it to chance. All right. Set a structure, set a routine, and go after it. And that's what having goals around fitness can do. Now, it doesn't need to be Hyrox. I know runners that have goals to, casual runners or amateur runners. I'm an amateur runner, um, that have goals to do a half marathon, but they've got something they're aiming for. And I'll word it another way. When you're going through life each and every day and you're not working towards something or there's not something on the horizon, it can get very mundane. Okay. How many of us love to go on a holiday? And how our mindset is very, very different when we don't have that holiday to plan or look forward to or work towards. Um, I know that I went through this a number of years ago where I was like, just going, during the COVID time, where it was like travel was, probably furthest from everyone's mind. But what were we working towards? What were we, you know, where was the thing that we were looking to potentially enjoy a little bit, some downtime, some time with family, right? When you take those things away, it can get very, very mundane. Okay. And the more and more things get mundane, the less and less likely you are that you're going to stick to them. All right. So Hyrox was created so that there was a race for you to work towards as a general gym goer each and every year. They will say, a lot of people will say that the entry level is low. Okay. In other words, it opens up to a very vast variety of people. And I would actually disagree with that. I would say that Hyrox is probably one of the tougher events potentially that I've ever done. You need to be able to run at least 10 kilometers. All right. Yes, it's broken up. But then you add all the other exercises into that. All right. And it does become quite a tough race. Okay. Um, so while the movements are not overly complicated, and I think that that's where they say it's an entry level, running, lunging, rowing, ski erg, farmer's carry, burpee bora jumps. Nobody loves those. Um, Wall balls. Okay. There's nothing overly complex about it. And that's why the entry level is so low. And that's why it can appeal to so many people. When I competed in Hyrox Perth in 2024, all right, the first time it had come to Perth, what I loved most about it was actually serving its exact purpose. It had brought people together from all different training modalities and styles to this one event. So we had CrossFitters, we had functional training people. We had people that train at F45, BFT, SX30, people that trained at 24/7 gyms, all right, that were getting involved in this event. And it was fantastic to see. It was a fantastic celebration of the local fitness community. The other thing about Hyrox is the number of people that are traveling for it. It's almost like it's becoming a destination style event where people will look at it and go, because you can buy a ticket, it's open to everyone. All right. And they will be like, I'm going to buy a ticket to go to an event on the east coast of Australia. I'm going to buy an event to go up into Asia. I know people that have gone up to Singapore, over to Brisbane. Sydney's up in a couple of weeks. So people are actually traveling for Hyrox events, which I think is fantastic as well. Where the difference is between Hyrox and CrossFit for the general pop side of things is, again, Hyrox is a race. CrossFit is a training modality. It is a way to train. Okay. And this has been lost in the whole social media CrossFit world, all right? Because the original purpose of CrossFit was or their mission was to build better humans. And if you look at CrossFit at its fundamental core, that's exactly what it does. It builds better humans. Okay. But what we see on social media more than anything are the people that do or compete in CrossFit, the sport. Now, I have done that for a number of years. I don't do it anymore. And the reason why I don't do it anymore is because I believe that CrossFit, the sport, has gone away from that fundamental of building better humans. Okay. And CrossFit, the sport, has become more about, in my eyes, how can we break them? I'm old. I'm a master's athlete. I didn't get into CrossFit until the age of, I don't know, I was over four, well, about 40 when I got into starting to do CrossFit. Um, and so what I've recently noticed is as a master's athlete, and I'm not an advanced master's athlete, but I do compete in advanced because I can do the movements. But as a master's athlete, I was now expected to do RX like the 25, 30-year-olds because some of those RX athletes had now come into the masters category, which is fine. It's evolution. But it was now about, all right, we need to push the boundary. So as a masters athlete, I was expected to do RX. What we've also seen with CrossFit is that as the athletes have got fitter, faster, stronger, CrossFit continues to try and come up with new and stupid movements that have no connection to their fundamental core of building better humans to further test the athletes. And the reality is, as you do so, you start to increase the risk. And as we saw at the games last year, the risk got too great. Now, there's a whole heap of other backstory that, and I'm not going to go into that, but that's where I see CrossFit has gone wrong. CrossFit has gone from let's build better humans, what Glassman set it out to be, to how can we break the athletes? Okay. And it's almost become almost like a last man standing scenario. And that philosophy or that vision or that what we see on social media has really started to filter into a lot of the local CrossFit training facilities as well. So you've now got general pop that are not capable of doing specific movements being almost pushed into that realm of it's too high level for where they're at. The other issue that we see, or that I see, is that as society has modernized, I don't think from a stagnation perspective, we continue to spend more time sitting, more time rounded shoulders, tech head, or phone head, whatever you want to call it. It is having a drastic impact on our posture, which has a drastic impact on your ability to do more complex movements. So 20 years ago, when you were teaching someone potentially how to do a clean or how to do a barbell snatch, they weren't as limited in their mobility as they are now. I see it so often. The number of people that can't actually get into a front rack position with a barbell is highly concerning. And it is because they have spent so much time in a seat, driving, sitting, computer, etc. We see this more and more, and it's only going to get worse and worse. And that's why CrossFit potentially is going to struggle because the movements are becoming too complex for the everyday person to try and do. From a sport perspective, with a good coach, they can provide you an alternate movement that will get you the same stimulus, but may not be as testing on your body. But again, finding those good coaches can sometimes be difficult. The other thing that I would say is that CrossFit is constantly varied at high intensity, and that high intensity can sometimes, again, those lines are getting blurred between people being where they can, like the risk reward profile, they're starting to get too far into that risk because they want to go fast and they're not ready. Great coach of mine once said, you need to nail the fundamental first, quality of movement, range of motion, then speed is the way that you need to go, and then load. So, rather than just trying to go fast, and we see it, try and go fast with shit form, you're going to hurt yourself. I also think coaches need to really step up in that space. And if they do see it not going the way it needs to go, you actually need to call the individual on it. Now, I can sit here and say that there will be individuals that won't take that well, but you have a responsibility to that client to help them understand and not get injured. You have that responsibility as a coach. Again, that is where CrossFit kind of can blur. But if we take it back to its fundamentals of building better humans and we look at movement patterns, all right, I can see that CrossFit is a great precursor and way to train functional strength and conditioning. CrossFit, the name, is just a brand. It's functional strength and conditioning. That's what it is. Whereas Hyrox is a race, I'll call it a functional conditioning race. There's not a lot of strength in it. The sled pull and push maybe a little bit, but it's really testing your cardiovascular and your muscular endurance systems. And that's what Hyrox is testing. And we've seen it. How many CrossFit athletes walked out of a CrossFit box and did a Hyrox? Heaps of them. But the number one learning from that is you got to run more, right? Hyrox is 50% running. So if it's not 50% of your training, then you are going to potentially struggle in it. And we know the benefits of running from a cardiovascular perspective are going to be huge in that race. So keeping in mind, once again, is Hyrox dead? I don't know how much further it can go because it's a set format. What I'd love to see, because it is a set format, which makes it predictable, okay? It is an event or something that could potentially go to the Olympics, because Olympics is very, like, I'm not going to say traditional, but it is very structured and routine, right? 100-meter sprint is a 100-meter sprint. They don't go, oh my goodness, the athletes are getting faster, we need to make a change, which is what CrossFit kind of does. All right, the athletes are getting fitter, faster, stronger. How can we test them more? It's just, if you go faster, you go faster. If you look at the majority of sports at the Olympics, they are structured, they don't change, they're just repetitive. And he or she who's the fastest generally wins. They don't change it up. So from that perspective, Hyrox could potentially go to the Olympics. That could be an avenue. What we are starting to see is they are really starting to follow the CrossFit model in regards to the way that they structure their season. That's probably been one of the biggest downfalls that I've seen with Hyrox, is there is no real season, okay, from a professional athlete perspective. And we saw what happened at the recent World Championships, lots of athletes pulling out of races for various different reasons, but it's very hard to back up race after race after race after race and not burn yourself out. And so what we're starting to see now is more of a qualification style. They're going to start to introduce like regionals for Elite 15. It wouldn't surprise me if Elite 15 goes a little bit higher. They're going to start to introduce teams, which we saw at the Worlds. So they are really starting to follow similar model to CrossFit the sport in the way they segment it. The best thing that they could do is they could start to have an on and an off season, because I've watched too many athletes. Joanna is a classic, amazing athlete, but she's pretty much raced at every single Hyrox event that has been held in the last 12 months. It's going to be really, really interesting to see where it goes to next. There's stories about a Hyrox cruise, and really, it's a race that's going to appeal to some people. A lot of people are doing their yearly race that comes to their city. So the next evolution for Hyrox, and I don't know how this can be planned, but we are starting to see little independent events pop up here and there. And so that could then, like, similar to local CrossFit competitions. So are we going to see local Hyrox competitions start to evolve as well? That would be, potentially the next step. However, it is very equipment intensive, obviously, and you need a lot of room for it as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. That's where I see Hyrox and CrossFit. I think they can coexist. If you look at a lot of Hyrox athletes, when you see them training, they're running and then they're doing functional strength and conditioning. It's no different. Okay. And always remember, Hyrox is just a brand, hybrid athlete. CrossFit is a brand, it's functional strength and conditioning. And it got branded so that it could then develop into a sport and become commercialized. And think about that as well when if you're someone looking to do an event, you don't need to be part of a CrossFit box to enter a CrossFit competition. You don't need to join a Hyrox gym. We're starting to see these pop up everywhere. And again, I find it's just that next evolution of commercialization, right? You don't need to join a Hyrox gym to do a Hyrox. Okay. Like I said, it's functional conditioning and running. So if you are a member of a group training facility that, follows a functional pattern, whether it be an independent or a franchise, and then you add running, you can go and do a Hyrox. That's simple. Again, it's just that next evolution of commercialization and money grab at the end of the day. That's where I see Hyrox and CrossFit can coexist because one is a training modality and one is a race. And really, if you thought about it, if you had a look at the way, and I'm using CrossFit because it's the brand that everyone knows. If you look at a CrossFit event, Hyrox is just a really long 4-time functional race. Rather than being a 12-minute AMRAP, it's a 1 hour for time or however long it may take. Last year, it almost took me 2 hours, but that's where it's at. There is so many similarities. It should not be this is better than that. It is, they coexist. And it also comes down to what you want to try and achieve as well. If CrossFit can maintain or get back to its roots of building better humans, I think it can come back from where it has gone. Hyrox is going to need to see where it can go. I like the fact that it is a consistent race. It helps with people training for that specific race as such. I believe it could potentially be an amazing Olympic event. I think it really, really could. And I think that would be a wonderful evolution for where Hyrox goes. Is it going to build locally? We're yet to see. I would have thought that more races would have popped up, local races would have popped up. But again, if you look at how the equipment that's required to do an event like this in the space that's needed, it is a lot more difficult to set up. You would probably find that more places will do what they call Hyrox Sim or individual Hyrox events in their facility rather than opening it up, shall we say. But who knows where it will head. It's an exciting time. My personal view from a general pop perspective, I think I'm not going to say it's going to be a flash in the pan, but I don't know how much it can grow locally. And what I say when I talk about that, I know there's a lot of people that didn't do Hyrox last year that are going to give it a go this year. But I also know there's a lot of people that did Hyrox last year and are not doing it again. So it was almost like a one and done scenario. And that's what can often happen from a race perspective. So there we go. That's my view. Is Hyrox already dead? We'll wait and see. Hyrox and CrossFit can coexist and should coexist, and people need to stop slandering them and understand that our goal is to get people into fitness, making sure that people are healthy for longevity. And if they choose one modality over another, it does not matter, because at the end of the day, the more people that we can get into gyms, the more people we can get into exercise, the better it is. And when they fight like this on social media, it pushes more and more people away. Anyway, guys, that's it from me. My name's Justin. This was Greatness Unleashed, and I can't wait to present the next episode to you really soon. Have an awesome week. Bye.